First of all, thank you everyone for joining. This is our first event of the Developer Talks, and we are really excited to be able to have to share this event with you. The two main speakers are going to be Florian and Nico. Florian is the creator of Pocket Wheels and 3D platform and racing game. And Nico is the creator of Space Tournament, an arcade game in space with a special mission editor. And they made together at the Indie Game Festival. And we decided that it would be interesting to have a little talk where other developers and gamers can join and share a bit their common experience of how it was to create the video games. And the way we thought about it is that they're gonna be asking each other some questions about this process. And then if at the end you want and you have your own questions, we will also have a little round for it. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about, it was the process of creating the game and what was like the inspiration behind this first idea. So what was the initial concept for your game and what inspired you to develop an indie game? So maybe Nico, you can start telling us your experience and then later on Florian can continue.
Yes, what inspired me to making indie games is I think I love games since I'm young. I always played games. I not only computer games, also board games. And I'm also from a family where the people like to play games. And yes, so when I grew up, I of course met a lot of other people who also like playing games. And so I think it was in school, but then more often in when we studied that we started to make some small games, and yeah, it was just fun, and it was just I think it's the main reason is just because I like games, so I like making games. Yes, and the first time I made the concept for Space Tournament is when I just started to coding. I was pretty young. I think I was around 15 or something, and I played around with a some kind of game engine, but it's not a real engine. It's named Blitz 3D, Blitz Basic. And yeah, you can make very simple and very easy. You can make games with this coding language. And I just played around, and it was very, how to say it, it just makes sense, the system, because it's like you press a button and then the object start going, and you stop, press the button and the object continues going. And I choose this mechanic, and this mechanic makes sense, of course, in space, because that's how it behaves in space. And so I built a very small game in the past. And yes, and then there were a lot of small projects and stuff we tried, but nothing that's really worked out. So I decided at some point that I want to really make seriously a game. And so I decided to make a very simple concept, but where you can make a lot of stuff from the concept. And so I took the concept from the path and yeah, made Space Tournament.
It sounds sounds a little bit like my story. It's the same for me. I like playing games since I think the first video game I played was when I was 3, so more than 30 years old. And so I started making games since I was around 11, 12, and did play around with RPG Maker, did some fan games for Dragon Ball and everything that was interesting at a time, and played around some little projects. Then from RPG Maker, switched later to I think it was Unreal Development Kit, what it was called before. It's Unreal Engine, and then later switched to Unity and played around with this and did some smaller projects and some game jams. And after making the game jams, I did a little mobile game, which was pretty small, a small project, but that was also the moment I knew I wanted to make games professional or like indie games. And this is also the after I released the mobile game, I wanted to make a bigger project. I knew mobile market wasn't for me, so what I thought I'd make a game that I really like to play myself, and it's what I love 3D platformers and arcade racing games and something like that. And also the setting, Pocket Wheels is a 3D platformer racing game, but you play a toy car and drive around a house, so a bit like a Toy Story setting. And it was a combination of things I really like to see and that I'd like to play, and did a little prototype about the idea, how it feels, how a 3D platformer racing game would feel, and uh, it clicked pretty fast. And I shared a little video of the prototype on Reddit, and it got pretty good traction, and people really liked it. And so I knew I have to keep going on this. So it's a project I liked, and it's a project others liked. So that was perfect combination. And so I'm working on it since almost 4 years now. Yes.
Wow. So did you work the 4 years in full time for this?
No, I still have a day job I'm a web developer, and I'm working part-time. I'm working 6 hours a day, and the other 2 hours or even more, so I have some free time in the evening to work on the game. So exactly. So that's also the financial support for the game is coming from my day job, and I'll also keep it like that for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this makes the surviving much easier. But of course, it slows down the process
Exactly.
extremely
That's
if you yeah. Mm-hmm.
also sometimes if you have a problem in the evening, so working on something, and on the next day you always have to do something else on your day job. You have to get back every evening. Sometimes you just want to work on this feature or something, so
Mm-hmm.
really slows
Mm-hmm.
down. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you working full time or on the game? Or?
Yes, I worked the first 2 years of the development in full time,
Hmm?
but yes, it took longer than I expected, and I added more
Yeah.
stuff than I planned at the beginning. So
Mm,
yeah, I wanted to have be financially secure because yeah, I think it's a risky business. So
yeah.
I also started to work 50% on yeah, as in a job and 50% on space tournament.
Mm. I think that's the best combination for indie devs.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly the combination for especially for newcomers
Mm,
because you need some secure income, and yeah, most of the indie games start as a hobby project and something
yeah.
like this. So yeah, I think there are also some opportunities with yeah, with how to call it in English, the Gamesförderungen, so from Bavarian or from Baden-Württemberg. So the
Fundings, yeah.
state gives some projects money, but it's a very special process to get this money, and it's also time you need, and it's not sure that you get the money.
Mm.
Did you get something of this, or did you
Nope. I thought
also not?
about it, but there's always I think you get some money, but if you have to pay it back later, if some part of it mostly. And I always don't want to be in debt to someone with this project. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make it as safe as possible. So if it fails, it's okay for me. I learned a lot through the process, but I don't have a financial failure or something. That was always important for me.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
I think these, as I know them, you don't have to pay them back if it's not successful, the project. It's very good. But yes, I think it's yeah. I tried it one time, but it didn't work out, and
Mm.
then I realized it's one more topic I have to take time for, and yeah, it's not worth it.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Yes, paperwork, and yes, write the right things and stuff. Yes.
Mm.
Mm.
But I've seen you are doing a Kickstarter, is this right?
Yeah, I blended. Yes.
Yeah, it's could also it's also a good option for indies, I think. Mm.
Yes, I think so too. I wanted to release it for some more time, but people who are more into the topic, they told me, yeah, a crowdfunding campaign works better if you have a crowd. So especially if you really want to make money with it, you already need some reputation, some people that know you. So I didn't started it yet,
Okay.
but it's also maybe a on the other hand, you can also use it to be more known. So if people see the campaign, then they know the project and maybe they are interested.
Mm.
And so you just maybe also wise the talking about your project. What's always I think especially for indie developers is the one of the hardest thing because you don't have a big budget for marketing or something
Mm.
like this. So you have to find ways people know your games and have to find ways that the people who like your games and who want to play a game like your game know this game. So you have to find some way. And so maybe also the Kickstarter campaign is a good way for this.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have
Um,
any plans for marketing or for getting more people knowing your game?
I have a publisher since a few months, and
Oh, cool.
they will help me with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not official yet who it is,
Mm-hmm.
but the announcement will be after Gamescom, and they it's a pretty nice deal for me. So it's mostly it's a marketing deal. They will help me with marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and but they also help me with development. So if I have a problem or like oh, the shader isn't working, what can I do? I have some people who I can talk to, and they will help me. And it's also if you're working alone, you sometimes you're thinking about some ideas and don't know if this would this be good or so. It's also good to have their experience and that there are some people who can ask, hey, is this a good game design idea or so it's not only marketing, it's they're really helpful. So it's been pretty good so far for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can. Yeah, I believe this. As a solo dev, you always have to figure out everything on your own.
Yeah,
The internet is your source.
it's
If you
true.
have, yeah, that's good. If you have really some professional advice where you can just ask questions and they help you, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's pretty cool. I think that's one of the goal of the most indie devs to find a publisher who helps them and to take care of the project. Also because they can take a lot of paperwork and stuff for you and
yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
yes.
Absolutely, exactly. And the paperwork is exactly adding the stores and to consoles and everything. This is a lot of work. It was also a lot of work for the mobile stores for Apple and Google. So, but as I've heard for other consoles, it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, are you also working alone or do you have a team?
On the development side and the
Hmm?
coding side, and I'm working with Godot as engine and the
Oh,
engine
nice.
stuff.
Hmm.
I'm a solo dev, but I have friends that help me as freelancers. So
Hmm.
they, for example, Johnny. made my graphics, all the in-game design, the nice,
Ah,
beautiful the ship, the stuff that's going
mm,
around. So the graphics for this is from Johnny, and
nice.
Fabi made the UI and the UX, so the menu stuff.
Mhm.
Um, yes, and I'm the main developer, so I put with distance the most hours into the project because it's a lot of stuff all around the project. And yes, so I'm not directly a solo dev, not in the sense of I'm making the whole thing alone.
Yeah. But,
The advantage also is that I could never make as great graphics as Johnny, for example, because I'm more a programmer. So
yeah,
uh, yeah, so we can mix the best skills of everybody.
yeah, sounds good.
How did you do it? Can you also make 3D graphics
Mm,
from your game?
it's it's a mix. I am using a lot of assets from the Unity store, but what was important for me is that I could make them myself. So this is a low poly style, and I'm able to change the models like I want them to, and I could make some if I need some. But what was important for me when using assets was that they are that I've made them my own. So they are normally low poly style assets, but I'm using some shaders to make them more comic-like. So looks cel shaded comic graphics, and so I think it's important. It's great to use assets, but I think it's important to make them make them unique. So,
Hmm.
uh, but
Uh,
it
mhm.
would be a lot of making a game with so many graphics. Also, it's a lot of take a lot of time. So
Yes, of
yeah,
course. I
certainly
think there are a
helpful.
lot of great assets, and you can get a lot of great stuff. I think the main problem on assets is that you that they are in a specific art style, and the art style has to
Mm,
fit to your project. But I think yes, like you say, if you can handle the assets and you can make the assets fitting in your art style in your project, then you can
mm,
save work because it's great work from people who are able to do it, and you are making it fitting into your project, that it's yeah, that it's looks great, and that it's not completely a mix up of styles.
yeah,
And
that's
yes,
the problem.
yes,
Yeah, it's important. Yes,
cool. Mhm.
and really saved a lot of time. So I'm also mostly a programmer myself, and like 2D is something, a 2D game, I wouldn't be able to make a 2D game myself, I think. So if I do a 2D game, I would need also an artist or something.
Mhm, mhm. So you
Yeah.
like I remember, yeah, in the low poly style, so you don't have to make the very uh, it's not such texture based.
Mm,
It's more
yes.
like the shape of the objects. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's only textures are also only colors. So
Yeah, yeah, and then it has this nice comic
mm,
themed look. Yes.
yes.
Hmm.
Mm.
So what do you use to make the or to adjust the 3D objects?
I'm using Blender for this. Um, I think
Ah,
Blender
yes.
is such a is something like the best option you can use as an indie. The other ones are very expensive, and Blender is always getting better and better, and it's really good. And it's also free. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think also a lot of high professionals use Blender.
mm,
I think the only thing about Blender is you really have to the first time you open it, you're just like, wow, okay, what do I have to do? It's not easy to learn it, I think.
that's true. They're getting better,
Mm,
but it's still hard to learn. That's true.
mm,
But there are a lot of good YouTube tutorials, and
mhm,
if you
mhm,
look for a specific use case, you can mostly find any tutorials on YouTube. So
mhm,
this
mhm.
helps a lot.
yes, YouTube is a big source for indie devs.
Yes, that's true. Are you happy with Godot? Unity. I'm using Unity, and yeah, it's mostly Godot is always sounding more and more interesting with the things Unity is doing lately. And
I think yes, I'm happy with Godot. I think it's great and it's open source and you can just download it, you can make a game with it, and you can sell the game and you don't have to pay any bucks. Of course, if you are successful, then it just makes sense to donate. That's how it works. But
mm,
it's just also less paperwork because you can just download it and use it how you want, and you don't have to care about any license or stuff like this.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's also very beginner friendly. So because yeah, because of this, that you can just download it and it's easy to use. A lot of people who just begin making games are interested in Godot and getting Godot, and so the community, there are a lot of beginners, and so there's also a lot of stuff for beginners. But I think it's also you can also make big projects with it. Of course, it's at some point it's limited just because there are not as many development hours in Godot, of course, than in Unity or stuff like this or Unreal Engine. But for most projects, I think it's not really necessary. And the advantage again of this lack of features is maybe that it's more simple because you don't have a lot of stuff you don't even need. So you really don't have the stuff that you need, even especially if you make some kind of indie game which doesn't need the most high graphic stuff. So I think I don't know about the 3D stuff because I only used Godot for 2D,
mm,
but in 2D it's great. It's sometimes I have to, of course, but I think it would be the same with the Unity. Sometimes I have to find a workaround or stuff like this, but most times I can just put the stuff together like I wanted, and I get a good result.
yeah. What programming language are you using with Godot? I think there are multiple options, right?
Yes, I just use the
Okay,
Godot script.
yeah,
It's a built-in language. It's a little bit like Python, but more simple.
okay,
So with less opportunities, but yeah, you are scripting your objects, I would say. Um, yeah, it's a little bit like Python.
okay. So I think it can also use C sharp, but from what
Hmm.
I've read, most people recommend that you use Godot script if you're working with it. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
One
I
one
think
thing
one
that
disadvantage of Godot script is, of course, that it's a little bit slower, but for the scripting parts, you are coding stuff that's just running. Ah, um, for the scripting stuff, yeah, I just finished my sentence that maybe we have questions. The scripting stuff is, of course, slower, but it's only for part of the code that's just running one time the second, so it's not as important that it's slow. And if you really want to have speed, you can use C++ also to develop with Godot. Okay.
Yes, we had this question about how your perspective changed when playing games after you started programming yourself.
Yes, of course. Um, I started programming very early. That's why it's not easy for me to answer this question. But I think, of course, I always think about stuff, and you get some error, stuff like this, that I thinking about what's happening there. And of course, you have another eye on it if you know how to code and you know the problems. What do you think, Florian?
In general, I think it really changes the perspective. So if I play a game, it's all often like, how did they do that? Or something like, it's always like, how did they do this? How did they do that? And some game design, and this is a good idea. Or if I play some games and think this is a combination of these games would be awesome, or something like that. And so yeah, it really influences it, but it's not like I can't enjoy games also. I can really I still have a lot of
Yes, of
I
course.
can still enjoy games. Like some people I heard, if they are making movies, they can't watch movies anymore, or it's not like that.
Okay, then I think we can wrap it up here for now. I wish we can do like another event like this in the future because it was really insightful. For the people that didn't join from the beginning, don't worry, we recorded the whole event and we will make it available online on YouTube soon. And yes, you can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is Tournament Space for Space Tournament and Panic the First for Florian, I think. And
Yes,
yes, hopefully see you in the next event. And thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
And thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.